Hey guys, it's Scott from fxmissions.com. Just a note, I've finished the trilogy of anthologies from the forefront, and all 3 books are currently available on Amazon. Welcome to From the Forefront, an FX Missions podcast. Stories about courageous souls who felt the call of missions and obeyed.
Hey, Scott McClellan here. We're on site in beautiful Central Pacific side of Nicaragua for your leadership moment with FX Missions. I'm thankful to be joined today by our friend, Leck Heflin. Good morning, Leck.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Good night's sleep.
this time. Yeah, it's where we are right now is in, I think, Leck, you said it was 30 miles? Laguna.
30 kilometers.
30 kilometers, yeah. Laguna Apoyo. Okay. Which is on the Central Pacific side below Managua, 30 kilometers south of Managua.
Yeah.
And it's a crater lake. So is that right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's a volcanic caldera.
Okay.
It's the cleanest water in the nation.
Wow.
Reputed to be. I think that's probably true.
Well, it's very refreshing. I can testify to that personally. It's not too cold, not too warm, but so beautiful here. It's good to be here. Leck, I've known you for, some years now.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for what you're doing here. It's been good to get to know y'all and what you're up to. If we can take just a minute here, this is a leadership podcast, and I want to make sure folks know you from experience about what you're doing, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about how you got here. If somebody didn't know Leck Heflin, how could we help them know Leck a little better?
Well, that's kind of scary.
Well, I know you and I still like you, so there ain't no trouble there.
I guess my life is a convergence of many things that seem disconnected till they all came together.
Okay. All right.
I don't think that's really uncommon.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think sometimes we're discouraged by the seeming disconnectedness of parts of our lives, and I don't think we should be.
Okay.
Because I think they're all intentional, even if not from our side.
Gotcha.
I think they're intentional from God's perspective, and that He's putting something together. And we usually don't know what it is till we get to it.
Well, some stuff comes to mind on this side of the mic, like I'm tracking with you.
And so we have ideas along the way, and we get little glimpses.
Yeah.
But until we come to that place of clarity, whether it's for a long term or for a period of time, we don't know and we don't realize the value of everything we're experiencing that brings us to that place of usefulness. We can be, not that we can't be useful all along the way, we need to be useful all along the way, but not in the bigger purpose.
In the ultimate sense of usefulness, right?
Right. So I was raised in a small town right outside of Fort Worth, Texas, Azle, Texas.
Okay.
Born in Fort Worth and moved to Azle when I was 2. Rode a pony in the Fort Worth Stock Show Parade when I was just about to turn 3. There's a little prophetic element to that picture of that event, because I'm right in front of a mission on one of the main, either Main Street or Houston Street in downtown Fort Worth, with the sign "Jesus Saves" behind it, with me on a pony like a circuit riding preacher. So
there was an element of future.
I really get a kick out of that little picture.
I've seen that.
It seems like the Lord has a sense of humor,
man,
and he's just saying, I'm involved in this thing from the beginning, from before the beginning, actually. But that's another subject. But I was raised my dad was a home builder. His dad was a carpenter and a painter.
Okay.
His dad was a builder.
Okay.
Of institutional properties and homes. So I was raised up in a home building business, real estate business. When I was 16, I was listening to my pastor in the small Baptist denomination we were part of talk about his call to the ministry when he was 16 years old. And the question just dropped into my heart, would that be me someday? Almost everyone in ministry in that little group was bivocational.
Okay.
So it never crossed my mind that I'll just be a pastor, or I'll just be a whatever, It was always, I would, if I did this, I would do it alongside other things.
Right.
So that may have formed my mind to be content with doing one thing alongside another thing all my life. So later, when God did make it clear, when I was 19 years old, that I would preach the gospel and I would minister pastorally and whatnot, it had been incubating for a little while. And it had been something I'd wondered about. But I also wondered about a lot of things. I think that's normal. You know, I thought I'd want to be a teacher maybe, or a lawyer or a doctor. I went to school as pre-med to start with, but I forgot to study. So that didn't work out. That didn't turn out to be the thing. But as it turns out, I thought I wondered if I might be involved in government at some point. You know, these little seeds that get planted in you and they come up and you think about them. They just cross your mind. And it turns out that all of them meant something, because all of those are elements of what we do. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a doctor by any means. We care for the sick, son. Yeah. You know, we're compassionate toward the sick, and we love on them and help them get their needs met, and we pray for them, and sometimes God heals them, and sometimes the doctors get them well. Yeah. And sometimes we just help see them through a hard time. Yeah. And I've actually written some legal documents in my life, so I got to do the lawyer thing, even though and it was illegal. I mean, I served as the mayor of my hometown for a little while. Right. So, I've written contracts, things like that in my real estate business, and all these things folded together. Well, when I was 22, I think I was 22, we were visiting with a cousin of my wife, Cynthia. I had also known him virtually all my life, he and his family, out in West Texas, in Crosbyton. I think we were in Crosbyton, Texas, where he was living at that time, and still lives today. And he was bemoaning the loss of the family farm, the small family farm in the United States being taken over by large industrial agriculture. And he was bemoaning that because that had been his boyhood. And also, though, for the culture's sake. He saw in that culture of salt of the earth, hands in the dirt people, something that the nation needed. And it was losing it because they were losing their farms. They were losing also their culture to a degree.
The farms being gobbled up by conglomerates or whatever was impacting the culture in a negative way.
Well, yeah, because it was removing what he knew was a good, wholesome lifestyle from its presence in the culture. And as Jesus would put it, that salt and light influence, or that leavening influence, was being diluted. Okay. Yeah. And now, I wasn't agricultural. Okay. But that was a seed that planted in me. I tell people my agricultural experience is I rode that pony when I was a little boy. About that same time in my life, I got lost in a cornfield. and then let's see, Cynthia and I had a garden once when we were early married, and that's my agricultural experience. So I'm in Nicaragua leading a sustainable agriculture program. But over the years, that conversation with Joe came back to me, and I thought that night, wouldn't it be neat to do something about that someday? Now, why would I think that? Why would I think that? But it would come up in my mind over the years. It was often. It would occur to me, something ought to be done about that. Wouldn't it be neat to have an opportunity to do something about that?
What year would you say that was?
It was in the early 70s.
Okay. Yeah. We're a little ways out from that now. Yeah. But you're talking about that seeds of purpose stuff.
Wow. I don't know a lot of farmers. I wasn't in the farming community. I mean, I know people. Yeah. And I could value what he was valuing. Right. Observationally. Yeah. And I did go to visit with my friends on their cattle ranch in West Texas when I was a boy, and I had exposure, but I didn't have the life, but I valued those people. Yeah. And so it would come up in my mind, seemingly totally out of context in my mind. So I pastored a church. I started a church. I did some things ministerially in that regard, what we think of as ministry. And I had my business. Yeah. And I had my ups and downs in that. Yeah. I had one come down around my ears pretty hard one time. Oh, which, Lord have mercy. It's not an uncommon experience, but it's tough.
Yes, sir.
there's a story behind this. I won't go into it, but there's a hymn verse that really carried me through that.
Is that right?
Written by William Cooper, spelled Cowper. He was an associate of John Newton, who wrote Amazing Grace.
Okay.
And they wrote the Alney hymnal, and one of his hymns is God moves in a mysterious way.
Yeah.
You've heard that expression.
Yeah.
His wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps on the sea and rides upon the storm. And then
I've heard that one.
And then one verse says, "Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds ye so much dread are big with mercy, and shall break in blessings on your head."
Oh,
Now, there's the story behind Part of the story behind this is William Cooper suffered great bouts of depression.
oh,
He was probably chemically imbalanced, or who knows what.
And that's a while back. From a medical standpoint. Right.
There was no medical treatment for that. And so he was in this deep depression, and he decided he'd just kill himself. So he called a horse-drawn cab, and said, "Take me to such a bridge." And on the way, a big fog, English, British fog setting in, and they couldn't find their way. And they wandered around and tried and wandered, and blinded by the fog, he finally, in exasperation, said, "Just stop." And he got out of the cab at his own front door, unbeknownst to him.
He was back where they picked him up.
And he was a marvelous poet. And so he went in, and this came out in poetry. God moves in a mysterious way. So,
wow.
So anyway, during those downtimes, that verse, I had it on my mirror in the bathroom, and it carried me. Because I believe that.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that nothing is out of God's charge. Nothing's out from under his ultimate rule and control. And if it can't be redeemed for good, he doesn't let it happen. And that sounds unimaginable, but it's true, nevertheless. Not that I've experienced anything compared to other people's, but I believe that's true. One time I was in a low time, and I brought a message to the church one morning. I said, sometimes there's only two things I know. One is God's in charge, and the second thing is he's good, whether I see it or not.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, that helps you, when you hit hard times.
Yeah. Or when your vision's limited,
and
Yeah.
Or when you don't see enough, he sees it.
Yeah.
And you don't see enough.
Yeah.
If you wait till you see enough to do anything, you won't ever do anything. If you think you see enough, you're deceiving yourself.
Right.
And you probably should wait till you don't see before you do anything.
That's
then again,
the voice of experience.
But then again, go for it.
Yeah.
You'll hit some things and miss some things.
Yeah, and you'll I think as you mature, in life, your dependence, the level of dependence that you've always had is highlighted to you a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Because I know it's been true in my life. The level of self-assurance that I've had, that I started out with, I don't think I got most of that left. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the self-assurance piece gets replaced, I think, in our walk with the Lord and our faith, and we have a sense of dependence that I think is healthy.
The self-assurance won't carry you except so far,
right?
Because you're going to run up against the limits of that. But self-assurance is rooted in assurance in Him will carry you.
Okay.
Because when you can't see, He can still see.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you don't know, He still knows. If we're at all honest with ourselves, we don't know most of the time.
Yeah.
We know a little bit.
Right.
Apparently, that's enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can take responsibility for what we know.
Yeah.
And He can take responsibility for what we don't know.
He has to.
Yeah.
I remind Him of His responsibility on a regular basis. I said, now, Lord, I'm pretty clear. You sent us down here to do this.
Yeah.
And we're stuck, and you're responsible for this.
Yeah.
And He doesn't mind me talking to Him like that.
That sounds like talk among friends to me.
Well,
yeah. Well, you guys are here. You've been in Nicaragua
almost 7 years.
Yeah, almost 7 years. You've had a decorated history in life. I mean, you've done a lot of stuff. You were mayor in your community, as you mentioned. You were in the home building business for
All my life.
all your life.
Yeah.
And for you and your wife to be here at your season in life, I would think that that's a little bit rare in terms of the peer group or the people that you know. I want to applaud that because I think you started here 7 years ago, and it wasn't like it was your first thing to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that very much, and your courage to keep following. Obviously, the Lord made it clear to you, clear enough you could get started, as you say.
Right.
What is the specific thing that you guys are doing here?
We're a development program. We're not a mercy ministry, although we do acts of mercy, of course.
Sure, sure.
I tell people a missionary is a Christian living in another place.
Okay.
This is the stuff we're supposed to be doing wherever we live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our whole life is one thing.
Right.
It's not pockets of things
Right.
thrown together.
Yeah.
My friend Dennis Peacock says our life is a seamless garment. Everything is woven together. One thing fits into another. There's not a life of ministry and a life of business.
Yes,
There's
sir.
a life of life.
Yeah.
And it's all intermingled. There's a personal life, et cetera, all that.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that, and I haven't heard it put just that way, but I know for me personally, early on, I'm in the middle somewhere, wherever that is from an age standpoint. I knew early on that I wanted my life to be one life.
Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world." He didn't say, "Go be that." You are that. Okay.
Okay.
That's what you are.
Yeah.
Now, there's a way to do that well and not do it well. He talked about that too.
Right.
But you are that. That is He has made you that. So that should touch everything you do.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
Right.
I'm a Texan. I tried to get rid of this draw once upon a time, and it didn't happen. Okay. That's what I am. So
sounds like home to me, Leck,
well,
by the way.
So
right. Yeah.
Whatever anybody wants to think of that.
Right.
Some people, that makes me sound ignorant.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I don't really care what they think about that. So, as most Texans don't. So,
yeah, that's true.
But that's me. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm salt and light. So I was to be that where I was in Texas. I'm to be that where I am here.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway.
Yeah.
So what we do is, let me say, I was kind of in between. God pulled me out of pastoral ministry for a time so he could teach me something more deeply that I already knew in my head. And that was what we're saying. That all of life is all of life, and it's all ministry, and it's all productivity, et cetera, et cetera. And so, but I needed to learn it on a deeper level, and I needed to be separated from that, quote, ministerial thing in order to get a clearer perspective of the reality of what I've been telling other people and telling myself for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know when he did that, pulled me out of that, there was going to be about a 15-year hiatus on that type of thing. And it really, I might have balked at it if I had known that. I don't know if I would have, but I might have because it's sure longer than I thought. Anyway, so all this time he's massaging my perspective. He begins to kind of let me know that he's going to turn that loose again a little in some way.
Yeah.
Okay. And so in the meantime, I've met a good friend at a new church I was attending named Byron Easterling. And he said, "Leck, I've got something the Lord has shown me for Nicaragua. And I've got an opportunity to go down there and share it with some leaders, a group of leaders. You want to go with me?" Well, he had worked alongside me and counseled me in my mayoral endeavors and my city government stuff. And we had eldered together in a church. So I trusted Byron. I said, yes. That was very unlike me to just say yes. I didn't say, what's it about? I just said yes. But I'm not a world traveler. It's not the thing I had done. But anyway, I said, let's go. So I came with him and a few other guys. And as this vision unfolded, he said he had been incubating this in his own heart for about 3 years. He told these guys, he said, I believe God has put on my heart that he really wants to restore the culture and economy of Nicaragua. And he wants to do it in large part through small farms and small businesses. And he wants the church to catalyze and empower that process. Well, that rang my bell. Well, but now listen, remember the conversation in West Texas when I was about 22 years old?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The loss of the small family farm, and wouldn't it need to do something about that someday? Now, all of a sudden, I'm hearing a word about God restoring a nation through the reinvigoration of small family farms in the second poorest nation in this hemisphere, in the country that used to be called the breadbasket of Central America,
Yes.
but now is devastated and barren.
Yeah.
And I'm all kinds of bells and flags and stirrings and stuff.
Wow.
And I'm looking for my next assignment anyway. So I sat by the pool at the hotel and I said, Lord, if you wanted me to do this for the rest of my life, I'd do this. And he took me up on it, or I took him up on it.
Somebody took somebody up on it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it fell my lot to lead the conversation to say, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
Are we going to hear it and say it's nice and put it away and see if God ever does something? Or are we going to say, do you want us to take part in it? And so we had that conversation with the Lord, and we had that conversation with one another, about 30 people, 29 or so, I think, over a few sessions. And we developed a little plan. And so in the fleshing out of it, the testing of it, the modeling of it, now the fleshing out, we oversee a small farm sustainable agriculture program in Nicaragua. We have an agronomist who has great capacity to train people. He's a Nicaraguan.
Uh-huh.
He's done this for years.
Yeah.
In one form or another. And our hearts are aligned, our values are aligned, and Ernesto Martinez is a gift from heaven.
Wow.
Just amazing. We came down here not knowing what we were going to do, just that we were going to do it some way. and so by doing that, God provided the helpers that we needed because we didn't have the capacity.
Right. Yeah. You yourself weren't an agronomist or a farmer or
lost in a cornfield. That's my claim to fame in agriculture.
But that catalyzer piece, I think what Byron was saying and the word he used, I don't think was random. You know what I'm saying? He's saying, hey, the Lord wants the church, I'm pointing at you right now, to catalyze this situation, and I think that definitely is a role that you took initially there and continue to take to kind of synchronize up a variety of efforts and parties on different countries, different places, different emphases, and let's get this started.
Yeah. So we work with poor, small farmers.
Okay.
Not that farmers are small, but their farms are small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we work with about 100 families now. We moved here 7 years ago. We got started in earnest a little over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
5 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
I think it's 5 years is August. Or something
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
When we first started training anybody.
Right.
And we've just graduated 5 new technicians.
Okay.
That we trained up ourselves. Ernesto did.
Yeah.
They went through our 2-year sustainable ag program. We worked with them on their farms and projects, and they're leadership quality people. So we recruited them. Yeah. So we could train our own people instead of bringing in experts who want to butt heads with our other experts to prove who's the top dog. We didn't want to have to mess with all that stuff. So we just wanted to replicate Ernesto. Yeah. I call it my replicate Ernesto program. And so far, I'm really hopeful about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got 5 guys that are just, man,
wow.
Bring the crop. They're going to be wonderful.
You kind of got fully in here and invest in yourself and cultivate and manage and steward and other investment. I know the Lord's added to you this entire time. I'm thankful to see what you're doing, man. I think it honors the Lord, and I feel that, and I want to say that. Mm-hmm. In the midst of getting dirty fingernails along the way as we're doing our thing, we're working through it. Sometimes it feels a real mundane, and it feels like normal, and with struggles and everything like that. But the Lord's being honored. That brings him pleasure. So thank you for what you guys are doing. A lot what we talk about on this program is leadership. You've been, I guess, in my case, I was a leader long before I was ready to be. You were a leader young, early in life. You're a pastor early in life. You had mayoral responsibilities as well. You were mayor in Azle for a couple of go-rounds. Mm-hmm. You spent time as an initiator. You know what I'm saying? You heard and responded and looked around for other people who were supposed to be involved in that effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to see if you'd tell us a little bit about just some things about leadership that you feel like are central to discharging responsibility well. I mean, to me, leadership is about action, the combination of responsibility and action. You know, we've all seen leadership we didn't particularly think was doing was
Right.
going into plus column.
Right.
You know, and I've done my share of that. Hopefully, I don't have to do a lot more than of the kind that ain't too good. What would come to mind for you when it comes to leadership, conceptually and also practically? What would you like to say about leadership and some things folks who are listening could benefit from?
Well, of course, many people have said this, but it's absolutely true. And if somebody doesn't realize this is really important, they need to.
Yeah.
You have absolutely no business leading anybody till you know how to follow somebody.
Mm. Mm.
And you should always be a follower.
Mm.
If your ego can only put you in front, please go lead somewhere else.
Let that happen. I don't have to look at it. Huh?
Yeah, because we don't want to have to deal with you. We got stuff to do.
Oh, Lord.
You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. I know that guy, and I have been that guy.
I ain't laughing because I ain't been him
Okay.
either. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Good leadership has a vertical quality and has a horizontal quality.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. In other words, there comes a time when somebody has to be in charge and they have to lay it down and we have to do it.
Yeah.
There's not time to fiddle around, discuss, and meditate on it. It's time to act.
Right.
Okay. You've got to have a vertical structure. Some people only see a vertical structure. But by horizontal, I mean, you have to have a high degree of mutuality. So you have mutual respect for one another.
Uh-huh.
And really that enables that vertical to operate when it needs to. And it also enables that vertical to be more informed during times that are not quite so intense, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the illustration of vertical overfocus gone to seed.
Okay. Gone to seed.
Gone to seed.
I know that phrase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most fun I ever had in a football game was on we called it the B team at the time. It was the non-varsity football team at Azle High School. I was a sophomore. I was a quarterback. And it was so rainy and so muddy, they didn't let us play on the main field. We had to play on the practice field. We call it a loblolly. It was just a mud hole. and what a blast, man. Of course, it helps that we won. I actually threw a couple of touchdown passes to a guy named David Broom with a ball that I don't know how anybody was holding that thing. It was sloppy wet, On this one play, I don't remember what it was, of course, but I just got clobbered. I mean, the blocking broke down and the defense was in on me. I was buried in the grass and the mud. You get up with grass in your teeth. And so we had a military style huddle. It wasn't a circle. It wasn't an oval.
It was a line style.
It was like the line and the back's behind the line. The line was down, the hands on their knees, and they were all facing me. And I'm the quarterback, and they call it military style. It's not done much anymore. So I get back to the other, and I chewed those guys out, man. I said, come on. You got to block for crying out loud. So then I called the play, and we break the huddle and go to the line. On the way to the line, they all turned to one another and said, don't block, don't block, don't block. So guess what happens on this play?
Oh, golly, if that was bad as worse.
One more time, facing the mud. Here we go. I get back to the huddle, and I'm scowling, and they're all grinning. You can't drive people.
Yeah.
Now, there has to be a time when you can call the thing and go.
Yeah, right.
That.
Yeah.
But you can't drive people. They won't let you drive people. They won't let you drive them.
Yeah.
So you got to go with them.
Right.
And they've got to go with you. Mm-hmm. So unless you can have a rapport and let you go together, you can't lead anybody. But just because you have a big idea and a lot of personal drive will not get you there.
Mm.
Now, you got to have that.
Yeah.
But that alone will not get you there.
And you're talking about that's the vertical piece, right? I mean, when you say vertical,
that's a corruption of the vertical.
Okay, that's
the vertical has to be there,
part.
But that's the corrupted version of it.
Right.
The demanding. Now, if you got enough force behind you and you can put people in their place, and you can toss them in the prison, and you can
Right.
flog them, and all that kind of stuff. You can make that go so far,
Right.
as some governments do. Is you can bribe people, and you can make that
Right.
totalitarian thing work to a degree, but eventually it's going to fall apart because it's not God's design. He's not.
Right.
He's not. It goes a long way, and in this fallen world, corrupt leadership has a lot of power sometimes, but ultimately it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
Servant leadership is the only thing that's going to work.
And that servant leadership is a combination. It's not the absence of the vertical piece. It's the combination of the vertical piece and the horizontal.
You can call a play, you can initiate it, but if it's just the mechanistic operations that you're focused on, not going to happen.
Right.
You're a group of people. You have to have your lives invested together.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you can invest in other people's lives so that they actually are willing to help invest in yours as well, and it's there's a mutuality, you're not going to go there. In the scriptures, Paul and Barnabas went through Asia, which we now know was mainly Turkey.
Yeah.
And they preached in these various places, these new places that just now hearing the gospel, and there were some converts, and they went on their way, and they came back through, and they checked on these little churches they had established that didn't even have any leadership structure, and they appointed elders in each church. They didn't even appoint a head guy, as far as we know. They appointed groups of people.
Yeah.
So that tells us that in God's leadership design, mutuality is very important. But also, there comes a time when somebody has to say, this is what we need to do.
Right.
Either there's such a degree of mutuality that everybody can recognize that that's the thing, and he's the guy that's got the word at this moment, and they follow it, or there's some positional, structural thing that lets that take place.
Right.
And some meshing of both of those probably best in most cases.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You can get so horizontal that there's no leadership happening really.
Right.
At least nothing that can act in a crisis.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
A friend of mine says, you got to have this vertical thing. I mean, or you're not going to be able to play sometime. He said, can you imagine the NFL with no vertical authority structure? What would it be? No, I wouldn't be interested in watching that.
Right.
Or playing football or any sport like that. But you also have to have the locker room camaraderie going where, man, this guy, this is his skill. I know his skill.
Yeah.
I think back to Troy Aikman and Irvin.
Yeah.
And how they knew each other so well. I was always so amazed the precision of Irvin turns and there's the ball. Aikman knew what he was going to do. I mean, he was reading the defense and all this kind of stuff, and he knew how Michael Irvin was reading that defense too, and he knew when he was going to break, and the ball was there. It just amazed me. So that's horizontal.
Yeah, that's a relational
and vertical
aspect.
working together.
Yeah.
So you got to have that.
Right. I think knowing each other is, and that's what you're talking about.
It's relational.
Those guys knew each other.
It's relational.
Yeah. Not just, I got a job, you got a job, let's get it done.
Right.
Knowing each other at an intuitive level. I think to me that Jesus sent the 12, or Paul and Barnabas, or so many examples of that in scripture and in history where the relational aspect of getting something done was displayed in such incredible glory and splendor. You know what I'm saying? Peter, do you love me? Oh, what? I mean, the whole wrecking ball of
but then the next question was, do you love me? And then the next question was, do you love me? And Peter's getting frustrated. Why do you keep asking me this? Because I want you to think about the answer, Peter. I don't want you to get me wrong. I want us to get down to where we live, what's real, not just what you know you're supposed to say.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to have the horizontal and the vertical.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, love to me it's relational. Peter at that point had messed up. The Lord was in the process of getting him back from where he was in terms of mistakes and disappointment. You know, I think Peter disappointed himself as much as anybody did.
Oh, sure.
Thankfully, he learned not to, that several lines piece was getting worked on there. But the love aspect of what we've got to do together, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we've got the vertical thing you're talking about is what do we have to do together and how do we all line up to get it done? The horizontal part of that is the love component that exists between the members, right? I
Yeah.
mean, between the I'm talking about members of Christ's body. You know, I'm not talking about like membership of a club or membership of a Rotary or membership. You know, I'm talking about we are members of each other. We're different parts of the same body. The overemphasis, like you say, of either one of those is going to be dysfunctional. We can all get together and love each other and not get anything accomplished. And I don't want to get going down that road because I got too much to think about it. Certainly too much to say. So we got the aspect of what is it that we're called to do and how do we do it together? And then how do we maintain a spirit of unity and the bond of peace and the prosecution of what that is? Beautiful, man. I hadn't thought about it in those terms. We're thinking about, okay, we've got different positions and responsibilities and those kind of things in any organization or any group. But I haven't thought about it in the form of a cross, the way you're describing it.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not careful, we can lean one way or the other so far that it causes dysfunction.
That's true in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also true in relation to the organization and your, let's say, customers,
Okay.
or those you're ministering to,
Right.
which is customers.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
If no matter what kind of organization we've got, if that horizontal element doesn't carry over into the relational thing with the customer base,
Right.
you got something like this. You really need me.
Yeah.
You really need me, what I got to offer, and I come as your expert and your overlord.
Oh, wow.
And here I'm here to tell you, we're Americans. And we look down from on high, and we saw you in your great need, and we have come to help. Okay.
The great man has arrived.
Or we are Christians,
Yes.
and we have looked down from on high, and we have seen you in your great need, and we have come to help.
And we just happen to be the answer to your problems.
You know, that's disgusting.
Oh, Lord.
But I'm telling you, it exists.
Oh, mercy.
It
Lord,
exists.
help us. Yes.
I may have presented a little bit of a caricature, but not really.
No, not I've seen some exactly
it
what you're
exists
saying.
to that extent with some
Yeah.
people, but it's more subtle with most, but
Yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
And we got to really be scared of that.
Yeah.
We got to get away from
Yeah.
that. And so I love the word that Jesus used when he said, I'm about to leave you,
Yeah.
but I'm going to send you another comforter. Some versions say helper. Spanish, I think, says consolador.
Yeah.
The Greek word he used there, parakletos,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to call alongside,
Right.
come alongside.
Right.
When you break that word down, it means to come alongside and render aid.
Okay.
There's the coming up over and approaching from above to render aid,
Right.
and there's coming alongside and render aid.
Mm.
And Jesus said, get in this yoke with me.
Which is on
He
the
was a
side.
come alongsider.
Wow.
Okay. Or he comes and says, let me bear your burden.
Right.
We'll bear it together. I'm not going to bear it for you.
Right.
We're going to bear it together. In our first discussions with the leaders here and trying to flesh out what is the situation on the ground and what has God given us to offer and what has he put in the people already that we need to not hinder but help it flower.
Mm-hmm.
We learned that there's a guy that owns 5 manzanas of land. Now, manzana is an apple, but it's also a measure of land. That
Right.
in Nicaragua, it's 1.75 acres,
Yeah.
just a little off of that. He owned it, but he couldn't farm it. He didn't have any money to farm it with.
Okay.
Well, why didn't he go to the bank? Well, he didn't go to the bank because if he has a crop failure, the bank takes his land.
Mm.
So he's stuck in a real hard place. He's working for a guy that owns 1 manzana, less than 2 acres. That's a true story that was told us
Wow.
as a typical example in Nicaragua.
Okay.
So we said, well, we don't want to take that bank's position, but we want to help these people put their land to work,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So we want to come alongside them. If we make a loan or we do an investment,
Yeah.
really we invest, we don't want to establish some confiscatory
Mm-hmm.
scenario like the bank has. We want to give room to fail and room to retry and
Mm-hmm.
to a certain point. We also want to apply the terms of Jesus' parable. There comes a time when you've had another shot and you're just not going to do it. And we take our investment and move it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So both of those characteristics are built into our mentality and into our structures as we try to implement this with people. So we come alongside them. I heard a guy say, this one of those little seeds got just drops in you, you know. Under the mercantile system, the bankers were not only lenders, they were more, he didn't use the word partners, but they came along, he didn't say come alongside, but they came alongside the business.
Yeah.
And they offered you accounting services and advisory services, and they helped your business succeed. I didn't know any bankers like that. Now, there are some that try to follow that model to some degree, but I just sparked that, and I said, I might need that someday. You know, God just get your attention. When he does, you better hang on to that.
Yeah, market.
So that and the farm thing, when I was talking to Joe in West Texas, those two things came together. I said, well, these two need to be a part of this thing we're going to do here. They're coming alongside the Parakletos principle to come alongside and render aid. And let me partner with you. I want whatever we do to give people dignity. They already have dignity, so it's not quite how I want to say it. I want to recognize the dignity of the person. I want to reinforce it, and I want it to blossom in their mentality.
Yeah.
So one guy said, well, you know, you're going to have to tell them what to plant. And I said, no. We'll show them what some of the alternatives are. We'll give them thoughts about what might be most profitable and so forth and so on. And we'll say, we think you're most capable and your land will do this.
Yeah.
But they got to make that final decision, and they've got to be free to fail, because there's no dignity where there's no freedom to fail. But there's no dignity where if you fail, you're kicked to the curb either.
Right. Both are in there.
Now, there comes a time of separation, but I'm not talking about that.
Right.
And so human dignity is a big deal.
Yeah.
We bear God's image. Every poor man, woman, and child bears the image of God. Every scoundrel bears the image of God.
Yeah.
Every corrupt governor bears the image of God. Every public servant who's got a real heart of service bears the image of God. You know, we all bear his image, so we all have dignity. And we need to, if we don't go into that with a sense of awe and that's a holy thing to be playing, we're going to screw it up.
Yeah. Or reinforce indignity, or
we're going to mess it up.
Yeah, that's why. Honor all men, especially those of the household of faith. Men. And I think that's what you're talking about. To me, we need to get you back on another session, Leck. We're going to do that and continue this conversation.
I told you everything I know, so there's nothing more.
Well, we'll dig into
no, if you dig too deep, you find out I don't know anything.
Well, we can compare the little that we know, and we'll do fine. Just the honor all men, especially those of the household of faith, is the scripture that refers to what you're talking about. I think when we come alongside each other, just in that superimposition thing you're talking about like lording it over. You know, think about Jesus, Lord of heaven and earth, coming alongside. He emptied himself and he said, I'm going to come alongside you. And I'm talking about if we can see that for what it is, if we can embrace that for what it is, and we can understand it for what it truly is, then there shouldn't be any of us struggling about not being able to come alongside somebody or anybody, as you've done this to the least of those, the very least, the ones you consider least valuable. You've done it to me. Yeah. And to me, the humility, the example of humility that is continually offered to us by the God of heaven and earth, the God of the universe, that to me is inspiring. It just fires my insides to want to be like him. How lovely is our God. How wonderful is our God. And
right.
I want to thank you guys for what you're doing and for coming alongside. You know, we talked a lot about different concepts of leadership or a number here, and I'd love to dig into those some more. But I really want to appreciate you joining us, and thanks for your friendship over these years. You and Cynthia, you know, you guys are important to us, and what you're doing is not just what you're doing, but as people. And Kathy and I appreciate your friendship. We want to do anything we can to encourage you guys, you know, to keep going.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And vice versa.
If somebody wanted to find out more, continue the conversation on a personal or direct way, or they wanted to find out more about what you guys are doing here in terms of detail to the agricultural piece or the development piece, where would we send them?
Pontis, Pontis.
Okay,
That's
Pontis.
Latin word for the bridge.
Okay.
The idea is we're bridging the kingdom of God into the surrounding culture. That's the idea.
Okay.
Pontis Nicaragua.
Okay.
.org. If you type .com, it'll take you to the same place.
Yeah, Pontis Nicaragua.
.org.
Okay.
And then our Facebook page, Pontis Nicaragua, also.
Okay.
Where you find a little more regular postings. But some of the details, our philosophy,
Right.
and how we're put together, and what we're doing is pretty well presented on that webpage.
Okay.
Brad Allen of Seattle, one of Seattle's, I forget which city actually, we're right in there. Put that together for us. Done a wonderful job.
Okay. Now, if somebody wanted to get a message to you, could they do that from the Facebook page or from the other website?
Yeah.
So we'll get that again, and we'll put this in
Or
the show notes.
if they want to write me at
Leck
Heflin, LECK HEFLIN at Pontis Inc. PONTISINC.com. I'll get that to you.
Okay, cool. Well, again, Leck, thanks so much for what you're doing, for your friendship, for taking time with us here. We've kind of been at the end of a weekend together here in a Bro Summit, and man, thank God we've all been enriched. I mean, I feel a lot better than when I showed up. You know what I mean?
I can testify to that. I have observed that transformation.
I look like it too. And we'll double back with you and catch you on a future session. Thanks again for being with us. Blessings to you and yours. And I'm Scott McClellan for FX Missions. If you need to contact me or us, please do so at fxmissions.com.
This podcast made possible through the partnership of Engaging Missions Show, bringing missions home, and encouraging you to hear a message, make connections, and take action. Find out more at engagingmissions.com. Thanks for joining us for the FX Missions podcast from the forefront. If you'd like to find out more about FX Missions, please do so at our blog, fxmissions.com. Quite a bit of content out there. We hope you enjoy it. Also, if you'd like to rate us on iTunes or whatever podcast service you use, we would really appreciate it. And find out more about today's guest at our Facebook page. Just search for From the Forefront on Facebook. If you know of someone who should be featured on From the Forefront because of their forefront missions experience or exploits, please reach out to us at info@fxmissions.com. Thanks again for joining us. And until next time, I'm Scott McClellan, and you have a good one.